Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Charottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamti Nashtiprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavatasya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. Text number 20 onwards. Shri Shukvacha iti sambhihito mahabhagavato bhagvat stri bhuvan gurur anushasanam atmano lagutayavan at shirodhiro bādam iti subahu manam uvaha. Shri Shukdev Goswami continued, after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavrat, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order and carried it out with great respect. So finally he got convinced because Lord Brahma himself was telling him. Shri Priyavrat was a grandson of Lord Brahma. Therefore, according to social etiquette, his position was inferior. It is the duty of the inferior to carry out the order of the superior with great respect. Priyavrat therefore immediately said, "Yes, sir, I shall carry out your order." Priyavrat is described as a Mahabhagavat, a great devotee. The duty of a great devotee is to carry out the order of the spiritual master, or the spiritual master of the spiritual master in the Parampara system. As described in Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Paratam. One has to receive the instructions of the Supreme Lord through the disciplic chain of spiritual masters. A devotee of the Lord always considers himself a servant of the servant of the servant of the So Priyavrat Maharaj, he offered obeisances and very humbly just, as Prabhupada said, "Yes, sir, I shall carry out your order." So he could not say no to Brahmaji. Bhagwan api manuna yathavat upakalpitat chitti Priyavrat Naradayor vishamam abhi samikshana manayor atmas asvasthanam avang manasam Chem avyavrithatam pravartyanagamat. Lord Brahma was then worshipped by Manu, or Swambhuva Manu, who was there, who respectfully satisfied him as well as he could. Priyavrat and Narad also looked upon Brahma with no tinges of resentment. Having engaged Priyavrat in accepting his father's request, Lord Brahma returned to his abode, Satyaloka, which is indescribable by the endeavor of mundane mind or words. Manu was certainly very satisfied that Lord Brahma had persuaded his son Priyavrat to take the responsibility for ruling the world. Priyavrat and Narad were also very satisfied, although Brahma had forced Priyavrat to accept the management of worldly affairs, thus breaking his vow to remain brahmachari and completely engage in devotional service. Narad and Priyavrat did not look upon Brahma with resentment. They did not say, "Oh, how come we got..." Priyavrat Maharaj, at least, he didn't say, "Oh, how come I got stuck with this position and this nonsense responsibility and I could not say no to Brahmaji." No. It was no resentment, with complete respect. They looked upon Brahmaji. Narad was not at all sorry that he had been frustrated in making Priyavrat a disciple. Both Priyavrat and Narad were exalted personalities who knew how to respect Lord Brahma. Therefore, instead of looking upon Brahma with resentment, they very feelingly offered him their respect. Lord Brahma then returned to his celestial abode, known as Satyaloka, which is described here as being impeccable and being unapproachable by words. So that is his abode, Satyaloka, or sometimes called Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe. And it's just unapproachable, indescribable. It is stated in this verse that Lord Brahma returned to his residence, which is as important as his own personality. Lord Brahma is the creator of this universe and the most exalted personality within it. Means most exalted personality, but Lord Shiva is there, Lord Vishnu is also there. But within the material universe, Shivji and Vishnuji, they are in the universe, but they're not of this universe. His lifetime is described in Bhagavad Gita. The total duration of the 4 yugas is 4.3 million years. When that is multiplied 1,000 times, it equals 12 hours in the life of Brahma. Therefore, we cannot factually comprehend even 12 hours of Brahma's life, to say nothing of the 100 years that constitute his entire lifetime. How then can we understand his abode? The Vedic literatures describe that in Satyaloka, there is no birth, death, old age, or disease. In other words, since Satyaloka is situated next to Brahmaloka or the Brahman effulgence, it is almost as good as Vaikuntha Loka. So in Satyaloka, there is no birth, death, old age, or disease. Means it's not Vaikuntha Loka, or it's not spiritual world. But like Brahmaji, he doesn't get old. It just when he has to leave his body, when the time comes, his 100 years are over, he just leaves. That's why Prabhupada said it's almost as good as Vaikuntha Loka. Lord Brahma's abode is practically indescribable from our present status. Therefore, it has been described as a one manas gochara, or beyond the description of our words and the imagination of our minds. The Vedic literatures thus describe the abode of Lord Brahma as in Satyaloka, which is situated many millions and billions of years away. There is no lamentation, nor is there old age, death, anxiety, or the influence of enemies. That is his abode. Manurapi parenevam parati sandhim manoratha surarshi varanu mane mate natma jam akhil dharamandal sthiti gupteya asthapya swayam iti visham vishay jalashaya shaya brahma. Swayambhuva Manu, with the assistance of Lord Brahma, thus fulfilled his desires. With the permission of the great sage Narad, he delivered to his son the governmental responsibility for maintaining and protecting all the planets of the universe. He thus achieved relief from the most dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires. So Priyavrat Maharaj is the ruler of the whole universe. Not a simple position. We become maybe a president of a society where we become a president just for maybe a couple of months, and then we think we are somebody very big. Here, Priyavrat Maharaj is a president of or ruler of the whole universe, and not for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We'll read later how many years he ruled. And Swayambhuva Manu, why he gave up his position? Because it's said he thus achieved relief from the most dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires. And because he was ruling for such a long time, and he wanted to give it up, and he wanted to go to the forest of Tapasya for self-realization. He didn't want to carry it on till the last breath of his life. See, people with Vedic knowledge, they know self-realization is a goal of life, not to stick to the power and position and just die like that, and then take next birth, maybe an insect on that same throne. Swayambhuva Manu was practically hopeless because such a great personality as Narad was instructing his son Priyavrat not to accept household life. Now he was very pleased that Lord Brahma had interfered by inducing his son to accept the responsibility for ruling the government of the universe. From Bhagavad Gita, we get information that Vavasvat Manu was a son of the sun god, and that his son Maharaj Ikshvaku ruled this planet, Earth. Swambhuva Manu, however, appears to have been in charge of the entire universe, and he entrusted to his son Maharaj Priyavrat the responsibility for maintaining and protecting all the planetary systems. Dhara Mandal means planet. This earth, for instance, is called Dhara Mandal. Akhila, however, means all or universal. It is therefore difficult to understand where Maharaj Priyavrat was situated. But from this literature, his position certainly appears greater than that of Vavasvat Manu, for he was entrusted with all the planetary systems of the entire universe. Another significant statement is that Swayambhuva Manu took great satisfaction from abnegating the responsibility for ruling all the planetary systems of the universe. At present, politicians are very eager to take charge of the government, and they engage their men in canvassing from door to get votes to win the post of president or a similar exalted office. On the contrary, however, herein we find that King Priyavrat had to be persuaded by Lord Brahma to accept the post of emperor of the entire universe. Similarly, his father, Swayambhuva Manu, felt relieved to entrust the universal government to Priyavrat. Thus, it is evident that kings and executive heads of government in the Vedic age never accepted the position for sense enjoyment. It was only as a matter of duty they accepted it. And as soon as they got a chance to get out, they would get out and just go for tapasya. Such exalted kings who were known as Rajarishis ruled only to maintain and protect the kingdom for the welfare of the citizens. The history of Priyavrat and Swayambhuva Manu described how exemplary, responsible monarchs performed the duties of government with disinterest, keeping themselves always aloof from the contamination of material attachment. Why? Because they knew the scriptures. They were Raj Rishis. And they knew the importance or the goal of human life. It's not just to enjoy or just have lots of money and power and women and just enjoy. No, that's not the goal of life. Material affairs have herein been compared to an ocean of poison. They have been described in a similar way by Srila Narottam Das Thakur in one of his songs. Sansara Vishanale Divanishi Hiyajjale Julaite na kainu pai. My heart is always burning in the fire of material existence, and I have made no provisions for getting out of it. Golokera Premadan Hari Nam Sankirtan Ratina Janmila Kene pai. The only remedy is Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is imported from the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. How unfortunate I am that I have no attraction for this. Manu wanted to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore, when his son Priyavrat took charge of the worldly affairs, Manu was very relieved. That is the system of Vedic civilization. At the end of life, one must free himself from worldly affairs and completely engage in the service of the Lord. The word Surashi Var Anu Matena is also significant. Manu entrusted the government to his son with the permission of the great sage Narad. This is particularly mentioned because although Narad wanted Priyavrat to become free from all material affairs, when Priyavrat took charge of the universe by the request of Lord Brahma and Manu, Narad was also very pleased. So Narad Muni wasn't feeling that, oh, my preaching didn't work and these two guys stole my disciple or this or that. No. Because Brahmaji said, this is the desire of the Supreme Lord, or this is the instruction of the Supreme Lord. So even Narad Muni was also pleased. And he knew his preaching, whatever preaching he has done so far, it will take effect sooner or later anyway. Iti havavsa jagati patirishvare chhyadhi niveshit karmadikaro akhil jagadvand dhvansan paran bhavasya bhagvat adi purushasyanghri yuglan varat dhyananubhaven परिरंधित कषाय शयो अवदातोपि मानवर्तनो माताम महितलम अनुशशास. Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrat fully engaged in worldly affairs, yet he always thought of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are the cause of liberation from all material attachment. Although Priyavrat Maharaj was completely freed from all material contamination, he ruled the world, material world, just to honor the orders of his superiors. So this was how he ruled the earth, ruled the whole universe. The words manas, manavardhan mahatam, just to show honor to superiors, are very significant. Although Maharaj Priyavrat was already a liberated person and had no attraction for material things, he engaged himself fully in governmental affairs just to show respect to Lord Brahma. Arjuna had also acted in the same way. Arjuna had no desire to participate in political affairs or the fighting at Kurukshetra, but when ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord Krishna, he executed those duties very nicely. One who always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord is certainly above all the contamination of the material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yoginam api sarvesha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Maharaj Priyavrat therefore was a liberated person and was among the highest of yogis. Yet superficially, he became the emperor of the universe in accordance with the order of Lord Brahma. Showing respect to his superior in this way was another of his extraordinary qualifications. So it's not that Maharaj Priyavrat thought, oh, I'm such an exalted devotee, such an advanced devotee, and why is Brahmaji telling me all this? He's already in the mode of passion and he's only worried about creating population in the universe and this or that. No. With full respect to Brahmaji, to superior, he took up the position and he did such a wonderful job. A devotee who is actually advanced is not afraid of anything, provided he has the opportunity to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a proper explanation of why Priyavrat engaged in the worldly affairs, although he was a liberated person. Also, only because of this principle does a Mahabhagavat, who has nothing to do with the material world, come down to the second platform of devotional service to preach the glories of the Lord all over the world. So why a Mahabhagavat, who's Uttamadhikari, he comes down to the second platform of devotional service. Means he comes down to the level of Madhyamadhikari to preach, because Uttamadhikari cannot preach. Uttamadhikari, he always thinks everybody is better than him. Everybody is doing more service than him. Everybody is more qualified than him. And everybody is more surrendered to the Lord than him, and everybody is better than him. So how he can preach? Kanishta also cannot preach because he doesn't have proper knowledge. Only Madhyamadhikaris can preach. Why? Because they discriminate. Not in a bad way. Discriminate means they understand who's innocent, who is envious, who's a supreme lord, who's a devotee. So they behave or they deal with everybody accordingly. So Mahabhagavat, Prabhupada said, although he himself was a Mahabhagavat, but he had to come down to the level of a Madhyamadikari to preach. And not just preach, he preached very heavily. He used to call people, you're rascals, you're fools and rascals. Mahabhagavats cannot say that. They don't say that. But Prabhupada knew the heart of Krishna, the heart of his Guru, and then he had to come down and preach at that level. His own level was very, very high, very exalted. But he had to come down to that level to preach. And that too, calling everybody rascals. Dealing with money, sannyasis are not supposed to deal with money. Not just dealing with money, he had to also get into performing marriage sacrifices for his disciples. He did so many revolutionary things. But because his position was very high, he could do that. So similarly, Priyavrat Maharaj, although his position is very, very high, but he took up this service to please Krishna, please Brahmaji, please his father Manu, please Narad Muni, please Shivji. Everybody was pleased. Ath cha duhitram prajapater vishwakarman upayemi barishmati nam tasyamu habhava atma janatma samanashila guna karma rupa viryo dharandash bhavyam babhuv kanyam cha yavya simur jasvatim nama. Therefore, Priyavrat Maharaj married Barhishmati, the daughter of the Prajapati named Vishwakarma. In her, he begot 10 sons equal to him in beauty, character, magnanimity, and other qualities. He also begot a daughter, the youngest of all, named Urjaswati. Maharaj Priyavrat not only carried out the orders of Lord Brahma by accepting the duties of government, but he also married Barhishmati, the daughter of Vishwakarma, one of the Prajapatis. Since Maharaj Priyavrat was fully trained in transcendental knowledge, he could have returned home and conducted the business of government as a brahmachari. Instead, however, when he returned to household life, he accepted a wife also. The principle is that when one becomes a grihastha, he must live perfectly in that order, which means he must live peacefully with a wife and children. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's first wife died, his mother requested him to marry for a second time. He was 20 years old and he was going to take sannyas at the age of 24. Yet, by the request of his mother, he married. As long as I'm in household life, he told his mother, I must have a wife, for household life does not mean staying in a house. Real household life means living in a house with a wife. So Maharaj Priyavrat also followed the proper rules of Varnashram system. 3 words in this verse are very significant. Oh, ha, wow. These words are used to express wonder. Priyavrat Maharaj had taken a vow of renunciation, but accepting a wife and begetting children have nothing to do with the path of renunciation. These are activities on the path of enjoyment. It was a source of great wonder. Therefore, that Priyavrat Maharaj, who had followed the path of renunciation, had now accepted the path of enjoyment. So this is what Shukdev Goswami is saying. Oh, ha, wow. He's saying, oh, wow. He got married and he had 10 sons and a daughter also. And Prabhupada further writes, sometimes we are criticized because although I am a sannyasi, I have taken part in the marriage ceremonies of my disciples. It must be explained, however, that since we have started a Krishna conscious society, and since a human society must also have ideal marriages, to correctly establish an ideal society, we must take part in marrying some of its members. Although we have taken to the path of renunciation, this may be astonishing to persons who are not very interested in establishing Daiva Varnashram, the transcendental system of 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, however, wanted to re-establish Daiva Varnashram. In Daiva Varnashram, there cannot be acknowledgement of social status according to the birthright, because in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the determining considerations are guna and karma, one's qualities and work. It is this Daiva Varnashram that should be established all over the world to continue a perfect society for Krishna consciousness. This may be astonishing to foolish critics, but it is one of the functions of a Krishna conscious society. So in the society, there should be everybody, sannyasis, and grihas, and vantras, and brahmacharis, and kshatriya, brahman, vaishya, shudras. And in the Daiva Varnashram means then they all will be devotees, but they're carrying out their proper duties in the proper Varna and ashram. And this is what Prabhupada, he did mention towards his last days, that one thing I could not do was to set up this Daiva Varnashram system in our society. He very much wanted to establish that. And some devotees say, he also said that maybe I'll come back later to establish their Varnashram system. Who knows when will Prabhupada come back? So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, this Daiva Varnashram system and social systems, are they different?
One is social Varnashram system, that is for the society in general to run. But Daiva Varnashram will be, everybody would be a devotee, but still doing their services according to their Varna and ashram. So like there are, even right now, there are brahmacharis, there are grihasthas, there are vanprasthis, there are sannyasis. So that is definitely there. But then there is a very much overlap of Brahman and Kshatriya and Vaishya and Shudra. So if that is done properly, then everybody can perform the services happily, properly.
No, I'm still not clear. When you say social system, like social ashram, the social ashram is these 4 Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And when you say
Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha, and Sannyas.
Brahmacharya, Vanprastha, and these are the your transcendental ashrams.
No. They are in both. All. See,
Achha.
Varna and Ashram. Varna means either Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha, Sannyas. Ashram means, Ashram means Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha, and Sannyas. So now Varna means Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahman. So Brahman could be as a brahmachari also, it could be grihas also, could be vanprasthi, could be sannyasi.
Okay.
But Shudras can only be either brahmachari or grihas because they don't go beyond that.
Okay. Thank you, Babaji. Clear now.
Okay, Nath.
Thank you, Babaji.
Okay. Any other question or comment?
Just Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Quick clarification on Priyavrata. I think he is the brother of Uttanpada, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.